Welcome to Fortune Forecast, and you are in my book playlist where we are going through the chapters of the book titled Your Forces and How to Use Them by Christian D. Larson. The book was published in 1910 and it is in the public domain. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am Daisy, your hostess, and to our Fortune subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. Jumping into a little recap about the previous chapter, I would say that literally they gave us like 2 chapters on characters, and it was pretty intense. And like when I sat down to contemplate about the chapter and their how to, the methods to use to develop a character, it's a real heart-to-heart conversation that I was having to really figure out what is that ideal and where are my characters and my values and my virtues. And it's tough. I think I was beating myself up a little bit there, but it's okay because it's all about that upward and rising, growing and development. And it's like gardening, trying to cultivate something, and that something is inside of us. Okay, I am just going to go ahead to the next chapter. I hope that you are ready with me. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, and depending on what time of the day, grab your wine. Okay, and so I will start with Larson's words of wisdom, and then I will cue us into the chapter. When the creative energies are daily transmuted and turned into muscle, brain and mind, a virtuous life can be lived without inconvenience. Besides, the body will be healthier, the personality stronger, and the mind more brilliant. Hold yourself constantly in a positive, masterful attitude, and fill that attitude with kindness. The result will be that remarkable something that people call personal magnetism. Creative energy, when retained in the system, will give vigor to the body, sparkle to the eye, and genius to the brain. There is enough power in any man to enable him to realize all his desires and reach the highest good he has in view. It is only necessary that all this power be constructively applied. Chapter 16. The Creative Forces in Man. The human system may well be termed a living dynamo, as the amount of energy, especially creative energy, generated in the mind and personality of the man is simply enormous. If we should try to measure the amount produced in the average healthy person, we should become overwhelmed with surprise, though we should naturally become even more surprised after learning how much power nature gives to man, and then finding that he applies only a fraction of it. We shall soon see the reason for this, however, and learn exactly why all this vast amount of energy is not turned to practical use. What is called creative energy in its broadest, largest sense is that power in man that creates, forms, or reproduces anywhere in the human system, and it divides itself into a number of groups, each one having its special function. One group creates thought, another brain cells, another nerve tissues, another muscular tissues, another manufactures the various juices of the system, another produces ideas, another creates talent and ability, another reproduces the species, and a number of other groups produce the various chemical formation in the system. We therefore have all kinds of creative processes going on in the human system and corresponding energies with which these processes are continued. One of the most interesting facts in connection with this study is that nature generates more energy for each group than is required for normal functioning through its particular channel. In consequence, we find a great deal of surplus energy throughout the system. Each function supplies a certain percentage, and as it is not used by the function itself, the larger part of it naturally goes to waste. And here's where our subject becomes decidedly important. All kinds of creative energy are so closely related that they can be transformed and transmuted into each other. What is wasted in one function can therefore be turned to actual use in another function. An extra supply can thereby be secured for the creation of thoughts and ideas if such should be necessary, or an extra supply can be secured for the manufacture of the different juices of the system, or for the increase of muscular activity or functional activity in any one of the vital organs. Each group will readily change and combine with any other group, thus producing additional power in any part of the system at any time. More than half of the energy generated in the human system is surplus and is not needed for normal functioning, either in mind or body, though there are many personalities that generate so much energy that fully 3/4 of the amount generated is surplus. The question is therefore, what shall be done with this surplus energy, and how any amount of it can be applied through any special function of faculty desired? If a person can accomplish a great deal, sometimes remarkable things, by only using a fraction of his energy, it is evident that he could accomplish a great deal more if some means could be found through which he might apply all his energy. In fact, if such means were found, his working capacity as well as his ability might be doubled or trebled, and his achievements increased in proportion. If a certain amount of energy produces a certain degree of working capacity, twice as much energy would naturally double that working capacity. And this has been demonstrated a number of times. A great many people who have tried to transmute their creative energies and direct those energies into some special faculty have found that the working capacity of that faculty has been increased for the time being to a remarkable degree. But this is not the only result secured. The same process will also increase the brilliancy of the mind. And here, let us remember that genius, in most instances, is accounted for by the fact that practically all the surplus energy of the personality flows naturally into that faculty where genius is in evidence. To illustrate the idea further, take two men of equal personal power. Let one of them permit his surplus energy to flow into the different functions as usual, giving over a part to normal requirements and the other to mere waste. We shall not find this man doing anything extraordinary. But let the other man give over to normal functions only what is actually required, and then turn the remainder into his mind, or those parts of his mind that are being applied in his work. We shall find in this second case that ability will rapidly increase and that in the course of time, actual genius be developed. That genius could be developed by this process in every case has not been demonstrated, though it is quite probable that it could be demonstrated without a single exception. However, no individual can turn surplus energy into any faculty without becoming more able, more efficient, and more competent in that faculty. To learn how this process can be carried out successfully under any circumstances is therefore thoroughly worthwhile. To proceed, we must first learn how these different groups of creative energy naturally act. And we find that each group goes either naturally or through some habit into its own part of mind or body. In other words, we find in the human system a number of streams of energy flowing in different directions, performing certain functions on their way, using up a fraction of their power in that manner, the rest flowing off into waste. Knowing this, the problem before us is to learn how to redirect those streams of energy so as to turn them to practical use where they can be used now, and thus not only prevent waste, but increase the result of our efforts in proportion. In brief, we want to know how we can take up all surplus energy, that is, all energy that remains after normal functioning has been provided for, and use that surplus in promoting more successfully the work in which we are engaged. And to learn how to do this, we must study the art of transmutation. What we call transmutation is not some mysterious something that only a few have the power to understand and apply, but one of the simplest things in nature, as well as one of the most constant of her processes. Nature is continually transmuting her energies, and it is in this manner that extraordinary results are found anywhere in the realm of nature, or anywhere in human nature where unconscious actions along greater lines have been the cause. Whenever any individual has accomplished more than usual, it is the law of transmutation through which the unusual has been secured. The use of the law may have been unconscious, though everything that is applied in part and unconsciously can be applied fully and thoroughly through conscious action. When anyone is using his mind continually along a certain line, and is so thoroughly absorbed in that line of action that it takes up his whole attention, we invariably find that the mind, while in that condition, draws an extra amount of energy from the body. Sometimes it draws too much, so that every desire of the body is, for the time being, suspended, and the vitality of the different physical organs decreased below normal. A man, while in this condition, frequently loses desire for food. And we all know of inventors who have been so absorbed in their experiments that they have neither taken nor desired food for days. We have also found the same condition in many others, especially among authors, composers, and artists, where the mind was given over completely to the subject at hand. And what is the cause but transmutation? When the mind takes up for its own use a great deal of the energy naturally employed in the body, the power of normal functioning will have so decreased that the desire for normal functioning will have practically disappeared for the time being. Another illustration with which we are all familiar is where every natural desire of the body disappears completely, for a time, when the mind is completely absorbed in some entirely different desire. And here we find the law that underlies the cure of all habits. If you would turn your mind upon some desire that was greatly opposite to the desire that feeds your habit, and if you would give over your whole attention to that opposite desire, you would soon draw all the energy away from that desire which perpetuates the habit. The habit in question, therefore, would soon die of starvation. In the same way, people who are inclined to be materialistic could overcome that tendency entirely by concentrating attention constantly and thoroughly upon the idealistic side of life. In this case, those forces of the system that are perpetuating materialistic conditions would be transmuted into finer energies and would thereby proceed to build up idealistic or more refined conditions of body, mind, and personality. Both nature and human experience are full of illustrations of transmutation, so that we're not dealing in this study with something that lies outside of usual human activity. We are dealing with something that is taking place in our systems every minute. And we want to learn how to take better control of this something so that we can apply the underlying law to the best advantage. In learning to apply the law of transmutation, our first purpose should be to employ all surplus energy either in promoting our work or in developing faculties and talents. This process alone would practically double the working capacity of any mind and would steadily increase ability and talent, and also to turn energy to good account that cannot be used in its own channel now. To illustrate, suppose you have a desire for a certain physical or mental action, and you know that it would not be possible to carry out that desire at the time. Instead of permitting the energy that is active in that desire to go to waste, you would turn that energy into some other channel where it could be used to advantage now. Our second purpose should be to direct all surplus into the brain and the mind in case we had more energy in our body than we could use, or that was required for physical functioning, and thereby become stronger and more efficient in all mental activities. Our third purpose should be to transmute all reproductive energy into talent and genius when there was no need of that energy in its own particular sphere. And in this connection, it is well to mention the fact that a man who is morally clean, other things being equal, has in every instance greater agility, greater capacity, and greater endurance by far than the man who is not. While the latter is wasting his creative energies in useless pleasures, as well as in disease-producing habits, the former is turning all of his creative energy into ability and genius, and the result is evident. In carrying out these three purposes, we can prevent all waste of mental and personal power. We can control our desires completely. We can eliminate impurity, and we can turn life and power into channels that will invariably result in greater mental power and brilliancy, if not marked ability and rare genius. To experiment. Turn your whole attention upon your mind for a few minutes and desire gently to draw all your surplus energy into the field of mental action. Then permit yourself to think along those lines where the mind is inclined to be most active. In a few moments, you will discover the coming of new ideas. And in many instances, you will, for several hours, receive ideas that are brighter and more valuable than what you have received for some time. Repeat the process later, and again, for many days in succession. It will be strange indeed if you do not finally secure a group of ideas that will be worth a great deal in your special line of thought or work. Whenever you feel a great deal of energy in your system and try to direct it into the mind, you will have the same result. Ideas will come quickly and rapidly, and among them all, you will surely find a few that have exceptional merit. In learning the art of transmutation, the first essential is to train your mind to think that all surplus energy is being turned into the channel you have decided upon. That is, if you are a businessman, you naturally will want all your surplus energy to accumulate in your business faculties. To secure this result, think constantly of your surplus energy as flowing into those faculties. This mode of thinking will soon give your energies the habit of doing what you desire to have done. It is a well-known law that if we continue to think deeply and persistently along a certain line, nature will gradually take up that thought and carry it out. Another law of importance in this connection is that if we concentrate attention upon a certain faculty or upon a certain part of the system, we create a tendency among our energies to flow towards that faculty or part. We understand, therefore, the value of constantly bearing in mind the idea that we wish to realize. What we constantly impress upon the mind through our thoughts and desires finally becomes a subconscious habit. And when any line of action becomes a subconscious habit, it acts automatically. That is, it works of itself. Before taking up this practice, however, it is necessary to determine positively what you actually desire your surplus energy to do. You must know what you want. Then, continue to want what you want with all the power of desire that you can arouse. Most minds fail in this respect. They do not know with a certainty what they wish to accomplish or perfect. Their energies, therefore, are drawn into one channel today and another tomorrow, and nothing is finished. If you are an inventor, train your mind to think that all your surplus energy is constantly flowing into your faculties of invention. If you are a writer, train your mind to think that all your surplus energy is flowing into your literary talents, or whatever it is that you may be doing or want to do. Direct your energy accordingly. You will soon find that you will increase in power, ability, and capacity along the lines of your choice. And if you continue this process all through life, your ability will continue to increase no matter how long you may live. The second essential is to desire deeply and persistently that all your surplus energy shall flow into those functions or faculties that you have selected for greater work. Wherever your desire is directed, there the force of your system will also tend to go. And herein we find another reason why persistent desire has such extreme value. The use of desire in this connection, however, must always be deep and calm, and never excited or overwrought. The third essential is to place your mind in what may be termed the psychological field. And while acting in that field, to concentrate upon that part or faculty where you want your surplus energy to accumulate. This essential or process constitutes the real art of transmutation. though it is by no means the easiest to acquire. To master this method, a great deal of practice will be required. But whenever you can place your mind in the psychological field and concentrate subjectively upon any part of your system where you want surplus energy to accumulate, all your surplus energy positively will accumulate in that part within a few moments' time. Through the same process, you can annihilate any desire instantaneously and change all the energy of that desire into some other force. You can also, in the same way, reach your latent or dormant energies and draw all those energies into any channel where a high order of activity is desired. In fact, through this method, you can practically take full possession of all the power, active or latent, in your system and use it in any way that you may wish. That you should, after you learn to apply this method successfully, become highly efficient in your work is therefore evident, though this is not all. Extraordinary capacity, mental brilliancy, and genius can positively be developed through the constant use of this method, provided, however, that nothing is done, either in thought, life, or conduct, to interfere with the underlying law of the process. To place your mind in the psychological field, try to turn your conscious actions into what may be termed the finer depths of the personality. That is, try to become conscious of your deeper life. Try to feel the undercurrents of mind and thought and consciousness. And try to act in perfect mental contact with those deep underlying forces of personality and mentality that lie at the foundation of your conscious activity. An illustration in this connection will be found valuable. When you listen to music that seems to touch your soul, so that you can feel the vibrations of its harmony thrill every atom of your being, you are in the psychological field. You are alive in another and a finer mental world. A mental world that permeates your entire personal existence. You are also in the psychological field when you are stirred by some emotion to the very depth of your innermost life. A deepening of thought, feeling, life, and desire will take the mind more or less into the psychological field. And whenever the mind begins to act in that field, you should concentrate your attention upon that faculty or part of your system where you wish extra energy to accumulate. Make your concentration alive, so to speak, with interest, and make every action of that concentration as deep as possible. And all your surplus energy will positively flow towards the point of concentration. The power of this process can be demonstrated in a very simple manner. Place your mind in the psychological field, and then concentrate subjectively upon your hand, arousing at the time a deep desire for the increase of circulation in your hand. In a few moments, the veins on the back of your hand will be filled to capacity, and your hand, even though it might have been cold in the beginning, will become comfortably warm. Another experiment that is not only interesting in this connection, but may prove very valuable, is to concentrate in this manner upon your digestive organs. In case the digestive process is retarded, you will soon feel more energy accumulating through the abdominal region, and any unpleasant sensation that you might have felt on the account of indigestion will disappear entirely In fact, even chronic indigestion can be cured in this way if the method is applied for a few minutes immediately before and after each meal. The idea is simply this. That when you give extra energy to an organ, it will be able to perform its function properly. And whenever any function is performed properly, any ailment that might have existed in the organ of that function will disappear. A number of similar experiments may be tried, all of which will prove equally interesting, and besides, will train the mind to apply this great law of transmutation. The following effects may be secured through transmutation. Working capacity in any part of the personality or mentality may be constantly increased. All the energy generated in the system may be employed practically and successfully. The mind may be made more brilliant, as it is an extraordinary amount of creative energy going into the mind that invariably causes mental brilliancy. Any faculty selected can be given so much of this surplus energy of the system that it will almost from the beginning manifest and increase in ability, and will, in the course of time, manifest rare talent and even genius. Moral purity may become second nature, as all that energy that was previously squandered in impure thought, impure desire, or impure action can be transmuted readily and applied in the building of a more vigorous personality, a more brilliant mind. A better control of all the forces of the personality may be obtained, and that mysterious something called personal magnetism may be acquired to a remarkable degree. The attainment or accumulation of personal magnetism is something that we all desire, and the reason why is evident. What is called personal magnetism is the result of an extra amount of creative energy stored up in the personality and caused to circulate harmoniously throughout the personality. And the effect of this power is very marked. People who possess it are invariably more attractive, regardless of a shape and form, and they are invariably more successful, no matter what their work may be. Hundreds of illustrations could be mentioned proving conclusively the extreme value of personal magnetism, though we are also familiar with the fact that we do not require proof in the matter. What we want to know is what this power really is, how it may be produced, and why those who possess it have such a great advantage over those who do not possess it. To illustrate, we may take two women who look alike in every respect. We have the same character and the same mentality, and who are equals in every respect but one, and that is that one has personal magnetism while the other has not. But we need not be told of the fact. The woman who does not possess this power cannot be compared in any way with the woman who does possess it. The woman who does possess this power is far more attractive, far more brilliant, and seems to possess qualities of far greater worth. And the reason is that personal magnetism tends to heighten the effect of everything that you are or that you may do. If we should compare two businessmen of equal ability and power, the one having personal magnetism and the other one not, we should find similar results. The one having this power would be far more successful, regardless of the fact that his ability and power in other respects were the same as his associate. Even men of ordinary ability succeed remarkably when they have personal magnetism. And we all know of women who are as plain as nature could make them, and yet, being in possession of personal magnetism, are counted among the most attractive to be found anywhere. The most ordinary human form becomes a thing of beauty if made alive with this mysterious power. And a personality that had no attraction whatever will fascinate everybody to a marked degree if charged with this power. We all know this to be true. We are therefore deeply interested to know how this power might be secured. In the first place, we must remember that personal magnetism does not exercise its power by controlling or influencing other minds as many have supposed. The fact is, if you try to influence others, you will lose this power and lose it completely, no matter how strong it may be at the present time. The secret of personal magnetism simply lies in the fact that it tends to bring out into expression the best that is in you, and tends to heighten the effect of every expression. Or in other words, it causes every expression to act to the best advantage. Though we may find this power exercising its peculiar effect not only in the personality and in the mentality of the individual, but also in his work. When a musician has this power, his music charms to a far greater degree than if he does not possess it. There is something not only in the singing voice, but also in the speaking voice that indicates the absence or presence of this power. What it is, no one can exactly describe, but we know it is there, and it adds immeasurable to the quality of what is expressed through the voice. In the field of literature, we find the action of this power to be very marked. A writer who does not possess this mysterious force may write well, but there is something lacking in what he has written. On the other hand, if he has this power, he gives not only added charm to what he has written, but his ideas invariably appear to be more brilliant. In fact, there seems to be a power in everything he writes that is not ordinarily found on the printed page. On the stage, this power is one of the principal factors, and we frequently find that the only difference between the good actor and a poor one is the possession of a high degree of personal magnetism. No matter how well an actor may act, if he lacks in this power, he cannot succeed on the stage. When we go into the social world, we find the same fact. Those who possess this power are invariably the favorites, even though they may be lacking in many other qualities. In the business world, we find in every case that a man who is lacking in personal magnetism is at a disadvantage, while the one who has an abundance of this power will have no difficulty, other things being equal, in working himself to the fore. In a deeper study of this force, we find that it affects every movement of the body, every action of the mind, and every feeling or expression that mind and personality may produce. That is, it seems to give something additional to every action or movement, and makes everything about the individual more attractive. We might say that this force sets off everything about the person to a greater advantage. This power, therefore, does not act directly upon others, but acts directly upon the one who has it, and thereby makes the individual more striking as well as more attractive, both in appearance and in conduct. What is good in you is made better if charged with this force, and every desirable effort that you may make produces a better effect in proportion. Added charm, added attractiveness, and added efficiency, these invariably follow where the individual is in possession of a marked degree of this power. That which is beautiful is many times as beautiful where personal magnetism is in action, and that which is brilliant becomes far more brilliant when combined with this mysterious force. Many people are born with it and apply it unconsciously, though the majority who have it have acquired it through various forms of training. Any system of exercise that tends to harmonize the movements of the body will tend to increase to some extent the power of this force. Though when such exercises are combined with the transmutation of creative energy, the results will be far greater. The reason for this is found in the fact that what is called personal magnetism is the result of a great deal of creative energy held in the system or transmuted into harmonious muscular or mental activity. The development of this power depends upon the proper training of the body in rhythmic movements and the training of the surplus energy in the system to act harmoniously along the lines of constructive action in mind and body. A very important essential is to cultivate poise, which means peace and power combined. Try to feel deeply calm throughout your entire system, and at the same time, try to give full and positive action to every power in your system. Try to hold in your system all the energy generated, and the mere desire to do this will tend to bring about what may be called accumulation of energy. To experiment, try for several minutes to hold all your energy in your personality, and at the same time, try to give all of that energy harmonious action within your personality. In a few moments, you will actually feel alive with power, and if you have succeeded very well with your experiment, you will really feel like a storage battery for the time being. You will have so much energy that you will feel as if you could do almost anything. Experiment in this way at frequent intervals until you get your system into the habit of carrying out this process unconsciously. You will thereby cause your surplus energy to accumulate more and more in your system, and you will produce what may be called a highly charged condition of your personality, a condition that invariably means the attainment of personal magnetism. To secure this result, however, it is necessary to keep in mind, in an undisturbed attitude, to avoid all bad habits, physical or mental, to be in harmony with everything and everybody, and to exercise full self-control under every circumstance. In cultivating this power, realize that it is the result of surplus energy held in the system and caused to circulate harmoniously through every part of the system. Remember that it is a power that does not act intentionally upon persons or circumstances, that its aim is not to control or influence anybody, but to simply to act within the individual self and heighten the effect of everything that he may be or do. And this concludes chapter 16. All right, my friend, if you haven't done so, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell if you'd like to get notified about next time I post up a video. All right, come along, and I will be at the next video with Chapter 17.